On a humid Tuesday afternoon in Brooklyn, the doors of TitanFit Boxing Club swung open, quietly unnoticed by the throngs of muscle-bound trainers and glossy influencers gathered near the front desk. In walked Emily Carter, a 53-year-old woman whose presence was so unassuming it nearly vanished into the background. She wore a faded white t-shirt, loose boxing shorts patched at the seams, and cracked training shoes that squeaked slightly with each step. Her gloves, scuffed and dulled by time, dangled from her wrist like forgotten relics. Her face was calm, framed by streaks of silver in her tied-back hair, and a thin scar ran along her chin, visible only if one looked closely. No one did. To the gym regulars, she looked like someone who had wandered in by mistake, a cleaning lady perhaps, or someone dropping off lost property. Within minutes, whispers began. Laughter followed. The front desk manager, a lean trainer named Bryce, barely looked up from his clipboard when she asked to sign up for a sparring session. A few feet away, a group of Instagram fitness models giggled behind their phones, one of them muttering, "Is she here to film a senior citizen promo?" Another smirked. "She looks like the janitor's cousin. What is this cosplay boxing?" They chuckled as they sipped neon-colored shakes, their sculpted figures mirrored on the floor-to-ceiling glass. Emily, unfazed, repeated her request. Her voice was low, polite, but firm enough to cut through the surrounding noise. Bryce blinked, shrugged, and waved vaguely toward the sign-up sheet. Behind him, someone muttered, "She's going to break a hip in there." Just then, Travis Blake made his entrance. At 26, with a sculpted frame and carefully styled hair, he was the unofficial face of TitanFit. Known as the Prince of Punch, Travis was the gym's favorite showboat, arrogant, flashy, and always accompanied by a Bluetooth speaker blaring entrance music. He strutted across the floor with the swagger of someone who believed the world was watching, and in this gym, it often was. He'd built a reputation by recording sparring sessions with beginners and editing them into viral humiliation reels for social media. Travis thrived on spectacle, and when he spotted Emily at the sign-up desk, his grin widened like a wolf spotting an easy meal. "What's this?" he called out loud enough for the entire gym to hear. "We letting the bingo club into the ring now." The laughter was immediate. One of Travis's buddies, lifting weights nearby, snorted, "Be careful, man. She might throw her purse at you." A woman stretching by the ring added, "Or knit you a sweater mid-round." Emily stood quietly, her eyes resting on Travis without blinking. She said nothing, her posture relaxed, but still. That silence only encouraged the mockery. Another influencer recording his bicep curls panned his phone toward her and said to his followers, "TitanFit's letting in everyone now. Next week we'll have toddlers in headgear." Bryce, trying not to laugh, finally called it. All right. 1 round. Travis, you good with that?" Travis grinned, slipping on his gloves with theatrical flair. "Absolutely. I'll try not to break a hip," he replied with mock concern. Around them, phones were already recording. Trainers leaned on clipboards, fitness models gathered near the ropes, and the collective expectation hung thick in the air. This was going to be a comedy, a harmless joke, a throwaway clip for the gym's highlight reel. But Emily said nothing. She simply stepped toward the ring with quiet resolve, her shoes squeaking softly, the canvas awaiting a story no one was ready to witness. She didn't move like someone unsure of herself. Every step was measured, balanced, as if she could already see each inch of the canvas before her foot touched it. Still, the gym saw only what it wanted to an aging woman in worn-out gear, challenging a man half her age and twice her size. And so, the scene was set. A room full of spectators ready to laugh, a cocky fighter eager to perform, and a woman whose silence was about to become the loudest sound TitanFit had ever heard. The laughter inside TitanFit Boxing Club reached a crescendo as Emily Carter climbed onto the ring apron. Phones were raised in every direction, their screens glowing like stage lights, capturing what they assumed would be a short-lived performance. Travis Blake, already bouncing on his toes in the opposite corner, played to the crowd like a seasoned showman. He threw shadow punches with exaggerated flair, flexed for the cameras, and grinned as he shouted, Y'all better start recording. This is going to be over before she finds her stance. The gym erupted in more laughter. Someone tossed a gym towel into the ring as a mock token of surrender. Another joked, "Should we call her family now or after the first jab?" The energy in the room was electric but tainted, thick with arrogance and mockery, the kind of atmosphere that feeds on humiliation, masked as humor. Emily, meanwhile, was unbothered. She moved to her corner and began adjusting her gloves with slow, deliberate precision. Her motions were steady, no signs of nervous fumbling or distraction. She didn't glance at the crowd, didn't flinch at the laughter. Her head tilted slightly downward as she tested the tension in her laces, her breathing calm, almost meditative. A younger trainee filming nearby whispered, "She's not even nervous." That's weird. A few steps back, Marcus, a wiry trainer with a crooked nose from years of sparring, watched her with narrowed eyes. "That's not beginner energy," he muttered to his colleague Leah. "Watch her stance. That's trained." Leah shrugged at first, but as Emily shifted her weight from foot to foot, circling her corner lightly, even she paused. "Those pivots," Leah said softly. "They're too clean." Still, the rest of the gym remained blind. To them, she was a prop in Travis's show. Bryce at the front desk leaned on the ropes, smirking. "Hope she signed a waiver," he said. "We don't want to get sued when she pulls something." A group of fitness models clustered ringside, giggling behind their phones. "She looks like she's practicing Tai Chi," one of them scoffed. "It's giving yoga, Grandma." They laughed again, louder this time. Their jeers joined the swarm of voices that ricocheted across the mirrored walls. The only one not speaking, not performing, not reacting was Emily. She stood still now, eyes closed for a beat, then opened them and locked her gaze on Travis across the ring. It was the first time she acknowledged his presence, and it felt surgical, not emotional. Her stare wasn't angry or fearful. It was simply observant, calculated. Travis, still unaware of the shifting current, took it as a cue to ramp up his antics. "Tell me your name again," he shouted mockingly. "Or should I just call you Granny Gloves?" He turned to the crowd, arms wide. "Should we go easy on her, or give her the full TitanFit welcome?" The crowd responded with hoots and whistles. "Wreck her!" someone yelled. "Don't hold back." Travis bowed with exaggerated flair, then looked back at Emily. "Hope you stretch, sweetheart. I don't want your bones cracking on me." Emily didn't blink. She didn't smirk. She merely bounced once on her heels, loosening her limbs, her posture still relaxed, but something in her rhythm felt off to the few who were really paying attention, not in a bad way, in a way that suggested something was rehearsed, mastered. In the background, Marcus leaned in again, murmuring more urgently this time. "No one that calm walks into a ring unless they've been there before." Leah gave a skeptical nod, but her eyes didn't leave Emily. "Something about her footwork," she added, trailing off. They were among the very few who weren't laughing anymore. Something about Emily's presence, her stillness, her economy of movement had started to clash with the gym's chaotic energy. She wasn't tensing. She wasn't pacing nervously. She was just waiting, like a chess master watching an opponent move their first pawn. And for the first time, it wasn't just the veterans who noticed. Even some of the younger trainees began to quiet down their laughter, tapering off into curious silence. The bell hadn't rung yet, but something had already changed. The crowd, once rowdy and unrelenting, began to shift. Some lowered their phones, a few furrowed their brows. In the midst of noise and spectacle, Emily's silence was starting to echo louder than any insult. She didn't glance at the ropes, didn't seek approval or acknowledgement. Her focus was absolute, tethered to the present, to the canvas beneath her feet and the man across from her. And though no one could put it into words yet, something about that unshakable stillness began to gnaw at the room's arrogance. A feeling was creeping in, subtle quiet, but undeniable. Maybe this wasn't going to go the way they thought. Maybe the joke was never hers to bear. The bell rang with a sharp metallic clang, slicing through the charged air of TitanFit Boxing Club. The noise inside the gym faded into a hush of held breath. the crowd leaning in with gleeful anticipation. Travis Blake grinned, tapping his gloves together with theatrical flair before charging forward like a man walking into his own highlight reel. He opened with a rapid jab-cross combo, his punches cutting through the air meant to intimidate more than injure, at least at first. His footwork was confident, his balance solid, and his movements honed from countless hours in the ring. But Emily Carter didn't so much as flinch. She didn't throw a counter. Instead, she stepped just out of range, her movements smooth and economical. A subtle pivot on her right heel, a shift in weight to her back leg. Travis's punches met only air. From the sidelines, the usual chorus of cheers and jeers began to fade. Something was off. Not wrong, just unexpected. Emily's reactions weren't hesitant like a beginner's. They were precise, deliberate. Her eyes didn't follow the gloves, they tracked his shoulders, his hips, the tension in his calves. She was reading him before he even moved, each defensive shift a whisper of expertise. Marcus, the wiry trainer, leaned in toward Leah. "That's not luck," he muttered. "That's timing. That's Muay-style footwork." Leah's eyes narrowed as Emily ducked a looping hook without bending too far, just enough to let it brush past. "And she's not blocking," she whispered. "She's slipping everything. Clean." Every move Travis made, Emily anticipated and dismantled without ever lifting her gloves above waist height. Travis, for all his bluster, began to feel it too. His breathing grew heavier, not from exhaustion but from frustration. His punches, sharp and crowd-pleasing, were landing nowhere. The audience had stopped laughing. Phones were still raised, but now the recording was cautious silent. No one quite knew what they were watching anymore. Was this still a joke, or had they misread everything from the start? Travis pushed harder, stepping in with a wild overhand, right clearly trying to end it before he lost the narrative. But Emily turned with it, her torso rotating in a flowing motion, her lead foot angling sharply, making the punch miss by inches. The movement wasn't just graceful, it was masterful. The sound of his glove cutting the air was followed by nothing. No gasp, no contact, just silence. And then it happened. As Travis overcommitted, his body unguarded and weight shifted forward, Emily pivoted on the ball of her back foot. Her right glove snapped forward, not high, not for the jaw, but low and direct, aimed precisely between his 8th and 9th ribs. A liver hook. Textbook. Perfect. The sound of the impact was dull and wet, like a bat hitting soaked fabric. It echoed louder than any cheer ever had. Travis froze mid-motion. His eyes widened, his mouth opened in a silent gasp. For a heartbeat, he remained upright, his body seemingly unable to process the pain. And then his legs buckled, and he crumpled to the canvas in a single silent motion. No drama, no slow fall. Just a collapse. A tree being felled with surgical accuracy. No one in the gym made a sound, not even a gasp. Phones were still raised, but no one was filming for content anymore. They were frozen. The self-proclaimed champ, the gym's pride, the performer who never lost his spotlight, lay curled on the canvas, his arms around his side, breath shallow and uneven. His face had gone from flushed red to an eerie shade of pale green. Bryce at the front desk took a step forward, but didn't speak. Marcus blinked slowly. "That was a pro-level liver shot," he whispered. "Clean as hell. I've seen guys in Vegas get paid 6 figures to throw less perfect punches." Leah stood completely still, her clipboard forgotten. "Who the hell is she?" She breathed more to herself than anyone else. Emily didn't posture, didn't gloat. She didn't even look at Travis. Her breathing was steady, her expression unchanged. She simply took a half step back, allowing the stunned silence to settle around her like fog. Her gloves remained raised, not out of fear, but as if awaiting instruction. The referee finally broke from his daze and stepped in, crouching beside Travis and motioning for a trainer. The gym, just seconds ago, a circus of mockery, had turned into a cathedral of stunned reverence. Nothing moved. No music played. The Bluetooth speaker sat silent in the corner. All that remained was the hum of overhead lights and the faint creak of the ropes swaying gently in the aftermath. Emily stood still as a statue scar catching the light, while the entire gym struggled to process what they had just seen. For several long seconds after Travis Blake hit the canvas, the gym remained in absolute stillness. The crowd, so loud moments ago, was now suspended in disbelief, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Trainers stood frozen with towels in hand, fitness influencers with phones halfway to their faces, suddenly unsure whether to film or look away. Even Bryce at the front desk, who had cracked jokes from the beginning, stared with his mouth slightly open, unable to process what had just unfolded. On the mat, Travis writhed weakly, clutching his side, his expression caught somewhere between pain and disbelief. It wasn't just that he'd lost, it was that it had happened so fast, so clean, so undeniably. Then the heavy front door creaked open. In walked an older man wearing a faded Titan's boxing windbreaker, his silver hair slicked back and his sharp eyes scanning the stunned room. As soon as he saw the scene, Travis crumpled on the mat and Emily standing motionless in the ring, he burst out laughing. Not the laugh of someone amused, but of someone vindicated. It was a low, gravelly sound that echoed across the quiet gym like thunder in a library. "I knew that was you," he said, pointing up at the ring with a grin, his voice loud and rough as sandpaper. Emily Carter. Emily, the Falcon Carter. Undefeated lightweight champ, 3 years running. Retired early knee injury, wasn't it? Gasps rippled through the gym like an aftershock. The silence broke not with noise, but with a shift in posture. Heads turned, eyes widened, phones lowered. It was like someone had ripped off a mask, and they were all suddenly realizing they had spent the last 30 minutes mocking a living legend. The laughter from earlier now felt grotesque in their memories, and the insults janitor's cousin Granny Glove's Grandma Rocky hit them with delayed shame. A fitness model near the ropes dropped her water bottle, which rolled slowly across the floor without anyone chasing it. A trainee who had earlier filmed the fight shakily lowered his phone and whispered, "Oh my God." Coach Frank Dawson climbed onto the apron slowly, still chuckling. "You all thought she was a joke," he said, turning to the crowd. "You thought she was lost, that she didn't belong, that maybe she was crazy. But that woman," he nodded at Emily, "broke more jaws in her prime than most of you will ever throw punches. You think that liver shot was luck. That was a signature. That was mercy." The crowd stood rooted to their spots. Some glanced down at the floor, others stared at Emily like they were seeing her for the first time. Travis, still hunched over, groaned again, and a nearby trainer murmured, "He's lucky she didn't aim an inch higher. She could have shut his body down." Emily didn't smile at the reveal. She didn't nod or raise her fists in triumph. She simply reached for the straps of her gloves and began unfastening them, the sound of the Velcro louder than anything in the room. Her movements were slow, intentional. Each motion broadcasted calm control. She stepped between the ropes with the same quiet confidence she had entered, with her shoes squeaking lightly on the mat. No eye contact, no gloating, just focus. As she reached the floor, a hush spread over the room again, the kind that only accompanies realization that everything you believed a moment ago was wrong. She paused, once, turning slightly to face the stunned crowd. Her voice, when it came, was quiet, but it pierced the air like a needle. Never judge a woman by her size. That was all. No shout, no speech, just one sentence delivered with the finality of a knockout. Then she turned and walked away. The gym parted for her like a wave receding from shore. Heads bowed, phones, forgotten egos shattered. Her bag swung gently at her side, the scar on her chin, catching the overhead light as she passed beneath it. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. As the door closed behind her, the weight of her silence settled into the bones of everyone left behind. They hadn't just misjudged her, they had revealed themselves. The gym, once a stage for arrogance and performance, now stood as a monument to their own smallness. In that moment, Emily Carter didn't just defeat Travis Blake. She dismantled a culture without a single ounce of rage and without demanding applause. Just truth. Just presence. Just one perfect reminder that power doesn't need to be loud to be absolute. The video hit the internet like a lightning bolt, raw, unfiltered, and without music or commentary. There were no flashy edits, no added slow-motion effects or dramatic narration. Just the ambient noise of a Brooklyn boxing gym, the sting of careless laughter, the sound of gloves tapping canvas, and one perfect punch. It wasn't even uploaded by Emily herself. It was Chloe, one of the influencers who had mocked her the loudest, who posted it, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps to chase engagement. The title was simple, "Don't Judge Her by the Gloves." Within hours it spread across platforms, stitched into reactions, dissected by fight analysts, shared by motivational speakers, and debated in podcasts. People didn't watch it for the knockout, they watched it because it showed something rarely caught on camera, the exact moment arrogance collapsed and humility took its place. The video captured every frame of the humiliation, not Emily's, but the crowd's. Their smirks, their whispered insults, the confidence on Travis's face before the fall. And then it showed her footwork. The way she read him like a map, moved like a tide, and delivered that one shot with absolute precision. It was as though the world paused with her gloves. Comments flooded in. "This gave me chills. She didn't just win, she taught. We need more people like her." Fighters shared it, calling it a masterclass in discipline. Teachers shared it, calling it a lesson in humility. Parents showed it to their children, saying, "Watch how she doesn't react. Watch how she finishes." Emily the Falcon Carter became a name again, but not for glory, for grace. Inside TitanFit, the shift was undeniable. The very next day, the gym was quieter. The laughter still came, but it was no longer at someone's expense. Trainers began checking their assumptions. Bryce, at the front desk, stopped making jokes and started asking questions. Travis returned a week later, not with his usual entrance music, not with his crew of hype men, but a lone hoodie pulled over his head. He nodded at people without speaking, picked up a mop without being asked, and started showing up early for drills. No more filming beginners. No more cocky captions. He didn't speak of the liver shot, didn't mention Emily by name, but it was clear the man who used to own the ring now understood what it meant to stand in it. Even those who had never sparred before felt the weight of that shift. Fitness influencers began treating the gym less like a stage and more like a space of growth. The mirrors reflected not posing but practice. Trainers told new members the story like a parable one round. That's all it took. The culture that had once celebrated flash now quietly revered discipline. And Emily, she was nowhere to be found. No social media, no interviews, no victory laps. Just gone back to Queens, where her gloves hung on a hook by the radiator and the scar on her chin caught sunlight instead of camera flashes. In her small apartment, she made coffee the same way she always had. Black, quiet mornings, a city skyline in the distance. She never asked how many views the video had, never searched for her name. She didn't need to. Her purpose hadn't been to prove anything to anyone but herself, that she still had it, that the canvas still answered her steps. That, the rhythm, the precision, the quiet power, it hadn't left her. The world could talk, but Emily Carter didn't fight for their approval. She fought because it was in her. That was enough. But for the rest of them, for the gym, the viewers, the strangers who watched in awe, that single round rewrote the rules. She became a myth with a pulse, a legend, made not of stories, but of silence and skill. Her name, once forgotten, became a whisper in every gym corner. Don't laugh too soon. Remember the Falcon. The legacy she left wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It lived in the pause before the bell, in the way people now look twice before judging, in the quiet space between arrogance and truth where strength doesn't shout. It just shows up and delivers. If this story moved you, made you think twice about judgment, or reminded you of the quiet strength we often overlook, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that dignity doesn't need applause and that true power never brags. Subscribe to Deep Inside HQ for more real, raw, and powerful stories where silence speaks louder than noise and courage doesn't wear a costume. Let's redefine what it means to be strong, one story at a time.